So I've seen a lot of forges, and I've built a few. I don't know, not a whole bunch, but some. But I decided that we needed to come up with a design for a simple propane forge that you could build with almost no tools. That if you could cut some angle iron and if you could drill some holes through some thin stock, you could build a forge. You wouldn't have to be able to weld, you wouldn't have to be able to do any machine work, just cut and drill and bolt a forge together. I've come up with something that I think is a good solution. I think it's as good a forge as you can put together for the money, and you can do it in your shop with no trouble. The first thing you've got to have is about 8 feet of 2 by 2 by 1/8 inch wall angle iron. You got to have a couple feet of 1¼ by 3/16 or anywhere thereabouts. The size on this bar stock is not critical. This is just what I have in the shop. All of the instructions, all the details, all the cut list and the distances and the spacings will be in the notes to this video. You can check it out. I don't know if there's a way to print that or not, but at least you can go there and look at it and jot it down and have it with you when you start. So right now I'm just going to lay this steel out, mark it, we'll get it cut to length, and then we'll worry about drilling. So I think one of the real benefits to this forge is that it's little. It's essentially a net zero space burner because it is actually a work table, or at least a tool storage table and a forge, and it will disassemble. You'll be able to take this thing apart and store it in a box. You know, in just a small amount of space you'll be able to store these components if you're not going to be smithing for a while. It just uses lightweight fire brick, angle iron, little bar stock. You got to have some all thread. Did I mention that? 7/16 inch all thread. You got to have 4 12-inch pieces of that. So anyway, the cut list will be in the description. The sequence you can pick up by watching this thing go together. Let's lay out the steel, cut her to length. We're going to drill these holes in a right-left fashion. That is, one of these will be a right piece, one of them will be a left piece. We're going to come in from the end 1 inch, and then 13 inches, and then 23 inches. And in order to make it right-left, we come over the top, go 1 inch, 13, 23. So here's what that does. That's put 10 inches from here to here and 12 inches from here to there. And we center punch. And this does not have to be precise, so I just scribe eyeballed inch. With center marks on there, we're going to make it easy for our drill press. You're going to drill one of these 1 inch from the end. 9 inches long. So you come into 1 and 8. These last holes are drilled 10 and 1/8, center to center. It doesn't really matter how far back they are from the end of the bar, but 10 and 1/8 center to center is important. Center. There we go. And a little too far apart is way better than too close together. I'm going to drill this on my drill press. I'm spoiled, but there's not a lot of holes. I've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12. 12 holes through 1/8 inch and 3/16 inch material. You can do that with a cordless drill. You can do that with a corded drill. You can do that with whatever you've got that'll drill a hole. We're drilling them 1/2 inch in diameter. There's going to be lots of room for adjustment and wiggling things around which is fine. Once those holes are drilled, it's going to be time to put this forge together. So if you've not drilled steel before, you don't want that bit to be spinning fast. You hold the RPMs down as best you can. You keep the pressure steady. And the reason for that is you don't want the bit to accumulate heat. So you can lubricate the bit. Water or oil is best. But if your bit is really sharp and if you've got good pressure on there so that it's cutting a nice shaving, lubrication is almost optional. But most bits aren't sharp, and so if it's going to be rubbing at all and the friction grows, you've got to keep some sort of lubrication on there. Get some sort of a light oil, you know, gun oil or sewing machine oil or 20 weight or salad oil, really anything you've got that'll lubricate that bit in the steel. And then just hold the RPMs down a little bit. You'll do yourself a favor. So it is fairly important, I think, with the spacing on these holes, that these nuts come to rest with the flat side of the hex against the angle. That the spacing is such that the angle holds the nuts from backing off, and the nuts hold the angles up tight against the bricks. You know, I chickened out. I told you I drilled all the holes 1/2 inch. But I drilled these a little smaller, and I should have drilled them 1/2 inch. So drill your holes 1/2 inch. You won't regret it. So now, you just square everything up. Everything's supported, and we'll just tighten these down, compress these bricks. Not super tight, but nice and snug. And there's the body of your forge. Pretty tough, pretty serviceable. So now we're going to drill the hole for the burner. Oh, this brick kind of slid out a little bit. Let me show you. See that? I don't like that. And there's your forge. So it's easy to move around, it's not very heavy, it's pretty serviceable, and it gets hot. Now we're going to drill the hole for the burner to sit in. This is a burner that I took out of a different forge. I bought it online on eBay. There's a lot of them out there. You can buy them. I think I paid $70 for this. It's very simple. 3/4 inch pipe, a T, inject the fuel, 9-inch nipple, 3/4 to 1.25 bell reducer, drilled in through the side. But you drill whatever size hole your burner is right through this fire brick. This soft fire brick is highly insulating. It's weak, and you can drill it. You can cut it with a cheese knife, for crying out loud. So what I do is I set this in here, visualize where everything's going to kind of come to rest. I want this coming in kind of in the bottom third of the forge space. So we bottomed out right there. But this stuff was weak enough that I think I can just pull that out. So that's the shape of the cylinder that I took out of the inside, coming up at an angle. And then this bad boy will just slip in there a little ways like that. Let the valve project out over the edge. So now you just got to fasten this burner to the frame really, really reliably, because you don't want this thing falling off and dropping onto the floor of your shop. That would be a wreck. This forge now is ready to go. You just throw a couple bricks on each side for a doorway, more bricks if you want for a little hearth. If you had enough, you could stack up a hearth and then put a brick on there for a door. Doesn't really matter because that forge, cork up the sides enough that you still have airflow, is ready to rock. There's a really slick little improvement you can do to this. If you've got a piece of plate steel, maybe a piece of expanded metal, shaker screen, anything that's not flammable. You don't want to try to put a wooden tray up here, but you can actually put a little table over the top of this, which makes your loss of bench space for your forge go away, because now you can put punches and chisels and tongs and stuff right here on top. Watch this. I had a piece of diamond plate. We're going to set it on here like this, but I need to extend these legs so it's held up all the way out. Oh man, I'm glad I drilled these holes bigger. Tighten these down pretty good, like as hard as you want, really. Good enough. You could use 3/8 all thread here. You could use half. I just like the proportion of this 7/16. So now here's the drill. 6 more holes. So I think for a little bitty forge, easy to get into, satisfaction of building it yourself, I think this is hard to beat. The bricks will deteriorate. They always crack in the middle, but they're captured so tightly that the cracked bricks can't fall out. When the time comes that the floor is degraded because you've been, doing Damascus or just scraping in and out, you can take this thing apart, put in a new set of bricks, put it back together. You can put any naturally aspirated propane burner in here. You can make one, you can buy one, you can modify this easily and then just get a hole saw to match the outside diameter of the burner that you're running through the wall and just drill the hole. It drills just easy, as you saw. There are just a whole bunch of reasons that this is a good way to go. If you tire of the craft or you decide to put the hobby away or you move, it will break down obviously into a very small package, easily packed, easily stored, easily set back up. If you're thinking of getting into blacksmithing and you put together a forge like this and you have a propane tank, really all you have to do is come up with something that will serve as an anvil, a couple of hammers, a set of tongs, though those can be made, and you're becoming a blacksmith. So as it turns out, in order to build a forge, you don't need anything except a hacksaw, some way to cut light steel, and a drill, some way to drill light steel and drill through fire brick. So that is one big obstacle down. An anvil, that will present itself, or you can make something, or you can buy something new. Hammers are everywhere. Tongs or pliers can be used until you can make your own tongs. So, most durable, least expensive, most serviceable forge that I've ever seen. And I think you ought to go ahead and build one. If you're considering building a forge, I've got to assume you're thinking about getting into blacksmithing. If that's the case, way to go, man. You will never be sorry that you learned the craft. And something that you may be not aware of is that it just doesn't take that many tools. A pretty small set of tools will get you going. The forge, a simple forge, a basic small forge is plenty. you need some kind of an anvil. If you can't find a little antique anvil like that, like this, that's all right. There are new modern alternatives. And in fact, I've put together a tool list. You can go to startblacksmithing.com. You can click the link in the notes to this video, and it'll take you to a list that I've prepared that are just a very complete setup for a beginning blacksmith. Not only is it a complete setup for a beginning blacksmith, but there are tools in there that you ought to have if you're a blacksmith or not. There are tools in there that are just part of any basic toolkit that somebody ought to have in their garage, that no matter where you go and no matter what you do, you'll be able to take with you and use when you need to accomplish a particular job. So we've checked these tools out. The prices are good. They're available, they're useful, and you go check it out to see if there is a set of tools there that you could use to actually become a blacksmith, instead of just watching videos about how you might become a blacksmith.